Imam Al-Jawzi rahimahullah, he then says, quote, and so when the Exalted One says, you may have in qisas, the life, it means that there's a possibility and it's not compulsory, which means that the previous ayah has not been abrogated and is still in force. As Zujaj said, when a man knows that he is killed and that he's going to be killed, this goes a long way in prohibiting him from killing in the first place. So he thinks about preserving his life by preserving other people's lives and not killing them, and acts as one of the deterrents and wisdoms in the Sharia, because requital is a way of deterrent to stop people from going so far into the killing. So, when people consider this matter, they will realize that the prohibition is established, but a wisdom is that it prevents people from considering killing. As for the ulul albab that are referred to in the ayah, they are the people of penetrating and deep intellect. And they've only been specifically mentioned because of their rank, even though the ruling in the ayah is general, because all of the ayah can be benefited from by everyone. But those that have been commanded to use these ayat are those who are the ulul albab. And when Allah says, so that you might have piety, Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu has said, so that you might have fear of unnecessary spilling of bloodshed. And so that you might have fear of killing someone, which could result in you being killed because of that. Ibn Mansur narrated from Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal that when someone kills someone else with a stick or a boulder or a sword or a rock or some implementation, they should be killed in likewise manner. Because the outward form of the statement of Ahmed is that requital can be done without a sword. It can be done with any instrument that will sufficiently bring the blow of death, and can be the same instrument that was used, or an instrument of like quality, the instrument that had been used by the killer. This is the statement of Imams Malik and Shafi'i, and it's also narrated by Harb from Imam Ahmed that the one who had killed someone with a block of wood would be killed with a sword, and that the person that had killed with a boulder would be killed with a sword. So the ruling on this matter is that someone may be killed with the same item that they killed with, but the general ruling in requital is that of the sword. And Imam Abu Hanifa holds that requital is only to be done with the sword. Close quote. So when the Imam is saying, therefore, the requital is only to be done with the sword, you'll find some countries, for example, where people have committed a crime, that is the death penalty, bank robbery or rape, and you'll find they've gone in front of a firing squad. This happens in the Gulf. Or people have committed murder, and they get put in front of a firing squad rather than being beheaded. This generally happens in the Gulf, because they can be beheaded, but because of the statement of Imam Ahmed, depending upon circumstances, other equipment that can be used to deliver the same blow of death may be used. So the sword delivers the sharp blow of a quick death. The firing squad, if the guns are aimed accurately, delivers the sharp blow of a quick death, and so on and so forth. So areas that are under a Hanbali jurisdiction, a legal Hanbali jurisdiction, will mostly be using beheadings, but do have the option to use the firing squad. Whereas if you look at places that have been under the Hanafi jurisdiction, you'll usually almost always find beheadings. Now what you won't find is the electric chair, or hangings. And the reason why you don't find the electric chair, the gas chamber, or hangings is because none of those actions deliver the blow that is necessary to be swift to end that person's life. That amounts to ta'adhib, to actually torturing or punishing that person. And it is Allah that is to deal out the punishment and the torture in the hereafter, and not us. We are to deliver the hukm, the had, the actual judicial ruling. So you'll find that there's people that, one of the serial killers of the 80s, Dodd, when he was hung, because he had very strong muscles in his neck, he was a very built man, it broke his neck, but he was still alive. So he was paralyzed and gasping while hanging, and they had to break his legs in order to finish the job of what they'd done. This is one of the reasons why you don't use hanging as punishment. Because if someone has a very powerful neck or they have a very thick neck, they can survive that. Electrocutions have been the case where they have sometimes had to re-electrocute the criminal 2 more times in order to make sure that the amperage that has gone through his body has satisfactorily killed him, because you'll be surprised how strong the human body and how resilient the human body is. When you electrocute someone the first time, it's supposed to be only 15 amps that it takes to kill you, but some people have a higher threshold of pain. So they put all the amps through his body and he's still alive. They check the vital signs and his heart's still beating. They say his heart's still beating. This happened with Theodore Bundy. They had to electrocute him. One of the witnesses said they had to electrocute him 5 times in order to finish the job. Now, imagine being burned alive with a wet sponge that's placed on top of your head, a helmet that's then fitted, your feet are put in a pail of water, and you have electrodes ran up your arm and along your spinal column, and you're sat in an iron chair with leather straps going over your... What on earth does that have to do with delivering the legal ruling? This sounds like some type of crazy funhouse horror shop. That's not what you do to people when they committed a crime. Okay, he's committed a crime, but subhanAllah, he's still human. Or the gas chamber, where they put you into a room which is 10 feet by 10 feet or 10 feet by 12 feet, and they have vents that open up, and when the air comes in, the noxious gas, you throw up your insides. And then you gradually die because of that. Or lethal injection, where they lay you down on the table, and the first injections actually paralyze you so you cannot move. They cause muscle paralysis. Then the second injection causes you to have a fibrillation of the heart. So all of your valves are opening and shutting. I don't understand what this has to do with being humane, because they say that we're cutting heads off and this is inhumane and all these other things. And maybe the eyes blink when the head has been severed for 2 seconds or what have you. This is inhumane. But causing someone a heart fibrillation over 20 minutes after you've paralyzed them where they can't fight, they can't blink, and then finally you do the third injection, which sends a message to the brain to shut down all other functions of the kidneys and everything else. So they have a massive stroke. So you've had a 20-minute heart attack or what have you, and then a massive stroke. Yay for human rights. So you look at those matters, and it takes some people longer to die. Stanley Tookie Williams, they had to give him a double injection because he had a 51-inch chest. He was a massive, he had a bodybuilder's body, he was huge. He was physically quite powerful, quite robust. So it took almost an hour to kill him because his heart wouldn't fibrillate because it was too strong. Oh, his heart's not fibrillating. We're just going to have to give him a massive stroke. Should destroy the entire brain. And then the body's not respected and other things happen. In the revealed law, irrespective of what's happened, there's a certain respect that is given to people. So much so that this is why Imam Abu Hanifa rahimahullah says, no, you can't use anything other than the sword. Because some of the Hanafi fuqaha, like Ibn Abidin, say, no, firing squad amounts to mutilation. Because when the bullets go into the head and in the body, if you've ever seen someone that's been shot, it does look like they've been mutilated. So the Hanafi fuqaha, like Ibn Abidin and others, say, no, that's mutilation. Has to be the sword or some item where they will be killed instantly. That's humanity. That's being humane, you see. Imam Ibn Al-Jawzi rahimahullah, he says, quote, and so we look now at the words of Allah the Exalted when He has said, كتب عليكم إذا حضر أحدكم الموت إن ترك خيرا الوصية للوالدين والأقربين بالمعروف حقا على المتقين فمن بدله بعدما سمعه فإنما إثمه على الذين يبدلونه إن الله سميع عليم فمن خاف من موص جنفا أو إثما فأصلح بينهم فلا إثم عليه إن الله غفور رحيم. And so the words of the Exalted One stand as they are. It has been ordained for you that when death should approach any one of you, that he should make a bequest for the parents and near relatives in righteousness, according to the rights that have given, and to follow the way of the pious people. Whoever should replace that will after what he has heard, then the sin is only on those who have replaced it. Allah is all-hearing, all-knowing. Now the question that comes to someone's mind is leaving the will or bequest, is that recommended or is it compulsory? Well, there are two statements we need to say about this. One is that it is recommended, but secondly, that it is in certain circumstances compulsory, which is the most correct position based upon the words of the Exalted One where he says, kutiba, which means farada or furida. It's been made compulsory. Ibn Umar radiallahu anh has said, this ayah has been abrogated by the ayah of mirath, which systematically mentions inheritance. Ibn Abbas radiallahu anh says, the ayah that is being referred to is لِلرِّجَالِ نَصِيبٌ مِّمَّا تَرَكَ الْوَالِدَيْنِ وَالْأَقْرَبِينَ. Men are to have a portion of that which they have left to the parents and the near relatives. Surah An-Nisa, the 4th surah, ayah 7. The scholars are all agreed on the abrogation of the ayah beforehand, which states that the full will should be left just to one's parents and near relatives which inherit. But they differ in which near relatives are exempt from inheritance. Is the bequest compulsory for them? Or which inheritance are they to receive of the bequests? There are two positions with regards to this matter. The most authentic of them is that it is not compulsory that the zakah is not compulsory that the inheritance is given to the near relatives outside of the circle of those mentioned by Allah in the book and Sunnah. Then Allah has said this in ayah 180 of Surah Al-Baqarah, but in ayah 181 Allah said, and whoever replaces it after what he heard of it, the sin is only on those who replaced it. Whoever replaces it, as Zujaj says that this means whoever replaces one of the commands in the bequest after having heard it, then the sin is only on the one who replaced it, not on the one who has to distribute the portions, nor on the one who receives the portions that have been given to him. Indeed, Allah hears, meaning what has been distributed, and He knows what has been falsely done and how the inheritors have been cheated. And whoever fears from a testator some mistake or sin or ill will, then let them put justice between them, and there is no sin in this regard. Indeed, Allah is forgiving and merciful. Surah Al-Baqarah, ayah 182.